to stay.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Boards, a podcast dedicated to the actions and interests of skaters beyond skateboarding. My guest today, Scott Johnston, grew up in Maryland and started skating in the mid to late 80s. He moved to San Francisco in 1992 to pursue a career in skating, rode and turned pro for Think Skateboards, then joined the Mad Circle team and eventually moved down to LA and got on Chocolate. Shoe-wise, Scott was on DC for a bit before joining Rick Howard and Mike Carroll as they were starting Lakai in 2000. In the early 2010s, as Scott was slowly retiring from pro skating, he started working as a shoe designer at Lakai. In 2015, he moved to Portland, Oregon and started working at Adidas before moving back to LA in the summer of 2023 to embark on a new project. So here's my conversation with Scott. I hope you'll enjoy it. I start these interviews, I have a kind of a format to go through them. I don't know if you've listened to any of the interviews I've done, but basically I talk with my guests about, his or her story with skating and we go through their life kind of chronologically. And I end the interviews with like a friends questions kind of section. And so I reached out to a bunch of friends of yours to request some friends questions. And I actually have a lot, like I have maybe 18 or something like that, maybe 20, I'm not sure, but I have a lot from some really nice people. So I thought I would change the format of this interview for once, and kind of use this friends questions segment as like the bulk of our interview. And at the end, if we have enough time, I'd like to ask you about what you're up to these days, shoe design wise, because of course that's been a big part of your life in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about that, of course, and not focus only on your skate career. But so I want to just introduce you in a few words for the listeners who might not know you. And I'm sure most people who will be listening to this will know who you are and stuff. But just wanted to give a little summary of your life if I can. And please correct me if I say anything wrong. So I understand you grew up in Maryland between DC and Baltimore. You started skating in the mid to late 80s and you moved to San Francisco in the early 90s, I think 1992, to pursue a career in skating. I think before you went to San Francisco, you were sponsored by Venture and Think through Greg Carroll. Upon arriving in SF, you actually turned pro for Think. And then you went to Mad Circle, skated with them for a few years, and eventually moved down from SF to LA and got pro for Chocolate. And shoe-wise, you were sponsored by a bunch of different brands as you were getting started. I saw that you got some Vans and Duff's shoes for a while. Eventually got on the DC program with Rick Howard and Greg Carroll. Mike Carroll, not Greg. And eventually you followed them to Lakai when they started Lakai in the early 2000s, I think in 2000, maybe 99. And I read also that you got interested in design in the Mad Circle days, kind of working with Justin Girard and witnessing his making the brand and creating the graphics and everything. So that kind of planted a seed, I guess, for you to get interested in that. And eventually when you got on Lakai, you got to witness the birth of a shoe brand. And eventually once you retired from pro skating, I'm not sure what year that was, but I guess in the early 2010s, around there, you decided to focus on shoe design. There must have been a transition period where you were still pro and kind of getting into shoe design more seriously. And so you were first the junior designer at Lakai, then moved to senior designer, and then left Lakai in 2015 to go work at Adidas. You moved to Portland in Oregon to go work over there. You were living over there for a while until very recently, and you moved back to LA, I think over the summer. I'm not sure at what point, but very recently. And so as I said, we'll talk about what you're up to today, shoe design wise, and I'll ask you about that afterwards. But I'd like to kind of go through these friends questions, as I said, to have a glimpse into your skate career, and then we'll talk about shoe design, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's funny, there's parts of my story, and I always think of how to tell my story and all this stuff. And then just some of these things, recently I was like, oh, that's pretty funny that, when I moved to San Francisco, I don't want to hijack it, but I this anecdote is pretty, now that I'm a super, dad, and I try to get my kids inspired, I'm like, wow, when I was, 14, I that's when I started skating, but I had these odd jobs. I was like washing dishes, busboy, whatever, cleaning gas stations, whatever, and kind of spending money to buy skateboards until I was sponsored and just a little odds and ends, but I was saving that money and saving it and saving it. And then when I moved to SF, that was the first time I ever got on a plane at 18. I've never flown on a plane, bought a one-way ticket to SF, cleared out my bank account of the cash, like no ATM card, just put like $600 in the insole of my shoe and went out there with like kind of no intention of ever going home.
Wow.
And now I trip off that. I was like, really? Like $600, never looked back, cash in my shoe. And I think I like went a couple weeks and then got like a random job as like a security guard at a hospital.
Oh yeah, I
worked
think
that
I heard
for like
about that.
3 months. Yeah, so like crazy embarrassing at the time. But now that I look back, that I was just like, nope, I'm going out there. I'll find a job that's going to pay me so ultimately can just skate.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a funny thing to think of. The little things that flew into LA. I was like so scared. It was like a connector flight. I didn't even get off the plane. I just sat like in the plane. Everyone deboarded the plane, and I just waited for the plane to take off again. In like 2 hours, I just sat in the plane waiting. Yeah.
Damn. And that was your first time on a plane going to SF.
Yeah.
You had never been to SF before.
Never had been there before. No.
But you knew that the industry was over there. I guess you were already writing for Think and Venture at that point. So you like kind of had this idea that if I go there, things might happen for me, like skateboarding wise.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't even put a lot of thought into that. I mean, obviously we lean towards like, I don't know, maybe I've heard something, they're interested in me, or there was like a little bit more interest in me than just giving me some free stuff. So I wanted to check it out. But I mean, at that time, like, I lived in Maryland. I was driving around a ton to go to DC or Baltimore. And I really liked this idea of just being in the city and skating. And that's the city of skating at that point.
Yeah, sure.
So not needing a car, obviously MB being like the Mecca single spot. But yeah, I had one friend that lived there. He was from DC, and he was like, "Yo, you got to come out. You can stay with me."
Oh,
and
okay, nice.
I did, and then we got a place together. So I had like one friend contact, and then obviously the venture Think draw with Greg Carroll was definitely pulling me that way for sure.
Actually, that's a good transition because my first surprise question for you is from Greg Carroll. So he asked two separate things. He asked, "What was your childhood like?" The second question is, do you have any funny or crazy tour stories from when you wrote for Think?
Oh man, childhood could take all day. I don't know where to begin with that.
What age did you start skating? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I started. I feel like kind of late, like 14. I think is when I started. I rode bikes before that. I could go off on a tangent about that one because my son's about to turn 14 and my daughter's only 16, and they talk themselves out of so much stuff just because they have so much visual exposure to everything via YouTube. And they're like, I've seen that. I've seen it done. I've seen people really good at that, and why try? Mm-hmm. When you're at that time, you didn't know. You only had a little bit of information and you filled the gaps. And my son loves Stranger Things, so he's always like, "You're so stoked you grew up in the 80s." Like, there was so much adventure then, and probably that's why I started skateboarding. I think I liked my bike, and I would like the ability to do things like jump and kind of shred around, but also go places as well. Mm-hmm. So that, like, in the mid 80s, was it like Bones Brigade, like Future Primitive, like Animal Chin was coming, like that kind of era. Like, everyone was getting skateboards, and I was like, I'll check it out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that became like my everything. Like, immediately I was hooked because it had everything. It had the that fun kind of compression, shredding kind of like contact thing that I realized I love, and then just the adventure of it, finding places, going places. Really was a cool vehicle to like guide my life. I found myself in so many places, and it's funny, like I was talking to somebody last night, and we were talking about when we were, I don't know, at that adolescent age where like people going to parties and stuff. I was like, you know what? I was probably like not even having to sneak out, but going out in the middle of the night, but really just to go skate more, go skate something you're not supposed to skate, or go skate somewhere you never even knew existed, kind of thing. You just kind of went out to find stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, a really cool just adventure that skateboarding has shown me for decades.
Were your parents like supportive of you skating? Were they like, did they think it was cool, or were they like, I don't see this going anywhere for him or something? Like, what was their reaction?
Yeah, it was, at that point, my father had passed when I was like super young. So I didn't, have that kind of point contact with him because I was too young. But my mom, she definitely was, again, single mom. She was trying to keep me active, out of trouble. She probably knew I needed like that physical kind of thing to any sort of like frustrations or just that angst that kids, young boys have. That
sure.
I think I played football, like PB League when I was little, and then whatever, eventually started skateboarding. So she was super supportive. She was helping me, taking me to the shop, buying me boards. And then eventually she realized like, wow, this is going to be expensive. You're going to have to get a job. I didn't know these boards wear out so quickly. So, yeah. And then again, she taught me a work ethic with like that need to skate. I was like, okay, I need to buy boards. So I'm going to go work these odd jobs to be able to buy more boards. But yeah, she let me take her car when she either dropped me off places for like the entire day, dropped me off at one end of Baltimore, and I would just skate to the entire city and catch her on the other end. And just seriously, like when I look at where I skated through and the adventure of like, I think we were 14, 15, and I was like, man, we could have gotten a lot of trouble. But sure. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, she was mad supportive. Yeah, it was cool. I saw Greg the other day at the 30-year.
Yeah, you were there, at the 30-year girl reunion,
Yeah, and he was, it's funny. I think I had him, I don't know why, him and Josh Swindell were passing through. They were in my area, so of course they linked up, and I think they like slept at my house, like spent the night, and my mom made us dinner, and he was like, man, that was really cool, like just to see that, like, like your upbringing, again, as we're adults and all this stuff matters more when you have kids and you start to like look back at your own lives and it's just like the relationships our friends had with their parents. He was really kind of honoring that for me and that was really cool to see him and to remind me of that. Like I was like, dude, that was wild, like that he came and like slept at my house.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had so much appreciation for that and that was cool.
So how did you get on Think and Venture? I think you sent them a sponsor me tape, right? Is that how that whole sponsorship thing started, or?
Yeah. I remember, I sent him a tape. I don't know why he keyed in on Think, I just thought it was so cool. I loved the connection to SF. I looked at the team like Sam and Carl Watson and Nick Lockman, like the missing children, the quarter page ads. I was always like, that's super sick, like the discovery of like, nah, this is dope. There was other brands. Like I remember Small Room. I was like, what a cool name. What a dope brand. But yeah, Think was like everything to me because it was SF. It was connected to Venture, which I thought was like the best, truck company. So I definitely went for that specifically. I thought that I was a good, and also I just thought it would be a good fit, so I guess I would think in that way as well. So yeah, just mailing a tape. I can't imagine the letter, I probably like some, college rule notebook paper, handwritten note, like watch my video, probably put some special sticker on it to try to get them stoked. But yeah, that was wild, man. That was so wild because I sent it to him and he would, waiting to get that call. And it was like, I think it was like a back and forth. Like, yeah, we're showing it to a few more people, like Henry was over last night with Mike and the guys and they were watching it. And I'm just cringing because, Mike and Henry are now watching it, or
some of the best skaters in the world.
Yeah, I was like, this is not like what I was going for. I was just like Greg and maybe Sam and, Nick and these dudes, I watch it, not those dudes. Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting process. Yeah, it was quite an honor. Just that like there was this interest and they were just kind of looking at it and taking their time. It seemed really important to make, even just to send me boards. They were taking their time. Most days, we'll send you some boards and we'll just figure it out later, kind of thing. They were like, we're not even going to send you anything until we like just share it across like the crew, I guess. Beyond just the brand. So I thought that was now thinking back, I was like, damn, pretty wild.
And so how long did you write for Think? And to come back to like Greg's question, like, do you have any funny memories from going on tour for Think? I was trying to think how long you wrote for them. I'm not sure what year you got on Mad Circle, but yeah, like how long was this whole time period writing for Think, starting in Maryland and then going to SF?
Yeah. You know, my time in SF seemed like an eternity. But now looking back, I think I was only there for like 5 years. But that was like a pinnacle, like so much change and growth and just finding myself, well, or at least the first version of myself, you know, that,
Yeah.
But I think probably a couple years in DC, year and a half, 2 years maybe, just getting boards. Not really much. I think there was like a Partners in Crime video that I, you know, again, probably sent like a VHS tape that they just kind of put my edit into the video, you know, pretty crude. But again, at that point, it was like Ronnie Bertino and everyone. I was like super stoked to be in that video with that crew.
Sure.
And then get to SF. And I think it was like maybe just only like a year after getting into SF. And then the Mad Circle thing started to bubble up and started to get kind of interested in what they were doing, you know, from like a fresh start point of view, really cool graphics, art, all that stuff. But just sorry to get back to the question. I think I don't know, the SF stories, there was like a time I remember driving up to Portland or like through Portland for his camp. But I was like, I don't know if there was much fun besides I got a speeding ticket driving up into Oregon. And even to like just to these days I'm driving around, I still remember that really well. But I think it would be, I had just turned pro and Greg took me to, there was like a whole contest series. There was like Connecticut, there was like the playground Connecticut, the contest, you know, this real intimate contest. And it was like where Sheffy was there, like Rick, everybody, Cardiel. This is like the contest where Cardiel did the 540 padless on the,
the mini
vert ramp.
Not vert ramp, sorry,
Yeah, it was like a small vert ramp,
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking beyond overwhelming, scary. Like everyone was there, and I was like, "Holy shit! What? Like, fucking, why am I here?" I'm so shook, trying to switch up over like the hip or something. I don't even know if I took my run there. I was probably just so scared. I can't even remember if I took a run or not. It's funny that back in the day, like you could travel, like I think back to how many people like traveled to Europe and stuff and would just not even skate the contest that they were traveled for, you know? That was, it was very unprofessional. But yeah, I remember being there, crazy crew. And then we went to New York. That was like the Banks contest where that eventually, the kids just took over that bus and just bombed the bus, tagging it, and it was just chaos. But I was like, holy shit. I mean, that was the first time in New York. It was magical. I remember going to like Dojo's, some vegetarian restaurant at that point it was so wild. It was like, by chance, it was just Greg, Steve Caballero, and Alyasha. So like the most, you know, like Cab was my second pro board ever, you know, like he was the man. And then meeting Alyasha and just, you know, that was before there was a thing of like streetwear or any of these brand, like any of this whole like cultural moment that happens like probably 10 years after that. But going to eat with him and he's like, oh, there's this new, you know, this hip hop group that's going to come out. It's called the Wu-Tang, you know, you got to hear it. It's a new sound. And I'm like, wow, just shook. I was just shook. Like, I think he was like, try to go check out Tower Records and maybe it's there. I walk like maybe like 1 block away from the restaurant. Just the energy of the city was, again, the New York City. It was something that I grew very fond of after that. That was the most epic introduction to the city as a skateboarder, to meet just people that I today still idol.
You actually lived in New York, but not for very long, I think, right? For just like maybe a year or 6 months or something?
Yeah, pretty short. I think between SF and LA, I went out there. Yeah.
But at the time, like New York wasn't a big, like active pro skaters weren't going there to pursue a career, I guess. Like they were more in LA or in California.
Yeah, everyone was there. I think Huff, I had become pretty close friends with Keith and Chris Keefe, and they had moved back to New York. And that was like, because New York was bubbling up and there was like something going on there. And I had a movement in my life where like I broke up with a long-term girlfriend and I was like, you know what, I'm going to really cut ties and I'm going to go try something I've always wanted to check out. I want to go to New York and check it out, and just packed it up real quick and just went out there. It didn't last long. It was like 6, 7, 8 months. I don't know, but it was, again, the best time of my life. I remember that was like when cell phones were not really popular, but I got one because I wanted to be able to get people to reach me. I didn't want to miss anything, but I didn't want to be sitting around the house waiting for things to happen. I wanted to be like in the city, cruising around, checking stuff out, and then be able to jump in when the session pops or whatever. But yeah, I was Dimitry at that point. I was becoming friends with Dimitry Elyashkevich. He's from New York, but he's living in LA, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing in New York? You get out of there. I mean, I moved there in October, and it only just got like harder, you know, with the weather.
Oh yeah.
So went out and stayed, again, another friend to be like, come stay with me. So I went and stayed with Dimitry in LA.
Okay.
I was like, I'll check it out for a year. You know, I don't know if I'm really too into it, and just obviously stayed for like 15 years. I loved it.
Okay, let me have you listen to this next question. This one is an audio one.
Marty, Jatai, or Matt, who's getting shotgun in the Tercel on the way to Pulaski?
Did you recognize the voice?
That's Matt Willigan. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Dude, oh my gosh, yeah. I think Marty probably had shotgun. I think even if I picked Jatai up first, he wanted to be in the back. He wanted to pull his beanie over his eyes and just guy could sleep like within. He's like a cat or a dog. Like he could sleep in like 20 seconds. He's out. Like he is this guy that could conserve his energy always. Yeah, it was so sick.
That's a special skill.
Yeah. He could zen out like at age, I don't know what, 15, 16, you know, and just be like, I'm going to conserve myself and then go.
So these guys were like among your crew of friends that you started skating with, right? Back in Maryland.
Yeah. I think Marty Willigan was, I think I met him through this guy, Damien. And yeah, Marty, I mean, he didn't live that far from me. So we started skating. I think the people I skated with in the neighborhood, they got boards and they lost interest. It was a fad to them. So then you start to find like your crew, and Damien, I don't know how I met Damien. Went to school with him. Anyways, found Marty. And then, yeah, dude, come Saturday morning, I was so antsy. I would probably leave my house at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning to like probably head to DC. And yeah, half the time Marty was like trying to leave without Matt, like just like, no. I'm like, no, dude, your little brother, like, let's bring him. He's good. He's sick. He's like, fine. And then, yeah, I grabbed Jatai and we were out. Everyone would fade in a couple bucks for gas and just go. And yeah, all day at Pulaski or around the city, but eventually it was always just Pulaski. And then, maybe we'd end up in like Silver Springs on the way home and like skate a parking garage for another 4 hours before going home. It's unreal, you know, the amount of hours we put into skating, but it didn't seem like work at all. It was just like the only place you wanted to be.
Yeah, you were obsessed with it. Yeah, and it paid off. I mean, you had a great career after that, so.
It didn't seem like it. Now when you're trying to learn something, you're thinking about the hours. Like, oh, if I put in these hours, I'll get there.
Yeah.
But then didn't seem like it at all. It was just where you wanted to be.
Okay, I have a couple questions then from Tobin Yelland. So the first one is, what's up with the front crooks at Hubba Hideout that you shot with me for a Think ad? What do you remember about that day? And then he asked also, what stands out for you during your first 6 months living in SF, moving there from Maryland? Did you miss Maryland?
Sick. I mean, the front crooks is funny because I think I was just learning the city, not many spots in my like repertoire of like where to go. He's like, let's go shoot something, and definitely was not going to try to shoot a photo at EMB. So we probably met there, and I was like, I don't know, we'll go around the corner somewhere, you know, like again, not putting a lot of thought into like what we're going to do, where we're going to go. And I was like, I don't know, let's go check out the Hubba Hideout. I don't think I even skated it, you know, like let's go over there and check it out. And I don't even know why, because I think Rick had already done a front side, nose side, you know, in a video or something, like just footage of it. But I was like, oh, I didn't shoot a photo of it. No, I'll just shoot a photo for front side, nose side. That'll be cool. And I think I started trying that, and it's so high that I probably only ollied like 40 degrees or whatever, and then just started to accidentally grind it.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know. I think I was just like, whichever one works kind of thing. I'm just going to kind of go with it. It was never like the intention to do it, but that's what just was like working. Like I couldn't even get squared up to front side, nose sided. So it was just kind of, I don't know, sideways, crooked grind. Like, and I think we shot the photo. And then Mark Oblo was then coming on to help Greg Carroll. He's like, what's up with that photo? Let's go back and film that. So then I went back and filmed it. And I think it was in a promo. To be honest, like it was pretty lackluster. I think it was like underneath coping, but awesome photo.
Yeah.
The photo was incredible. Footage, not so much.
I don't think I've seen the footage of it, but I've seen the photo. I think it's in your Chrome Ball interview that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, there is footage. It was like, like a trade show loop or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about moving to SF from Maryland? How was it like the first 6 months you were there? Were you did you miss home kind of? Or what do you remember like your state of mind at that time just arriving in SF?
Yeah, it's a good question to think back. Like, what was my mind? But honestly, I was just trying to learn the city, trying to learn, again, still like so enthralled with skating. And at that point I was around like the best skating and it's just like pushing me to just head down and skate, and just skate a lot. And I was probably like overwhelmed. It's probably a common theme for me, is just like this like slight nervousness. But again, this was like, you're seeing like Javante and Jake Vogel and all these like pretty gnarly dudes. But I'm just staying focused on skating because that's just what I'm there to do. And I was like pretty excited to do it. And I was meeting friends like Mike York and Greg and a few other people, Greg Hunt. And, but yeah, I was just like, all I want to do is skate. I want to just do my best, I guess, not in a competitive way, but just like just stand on my own feet kind of thing. And like, yeah, I never look back. I mean, I got my little job. I wasn't pro yet. Me and my buddy, we rented an apartment, like a studio apartment. I remember just getting the futon. We both had it was like we're both in the same room. We'd go get our groceries and go to the worst grocery place and buy like a $40 bag of groceries and try to make that last for super long, and just really cautious about like spending money, just skating. And that was it. That was like all that mattered. Yeah, so it was a very simple life of just focus. So yeah, I never looked back. I think my mom helped me out. Like I think I wanted a TV, and she, I think, sent me like $250 to buy like this little 20-inch color cube TV. Like the thing was, it's just so funny. It was like next to my bed, and just I don't know. I don't even know what I was watching. Just regular, yeah. But I never looked back. It was pretty wild. Mom did something right, because she got me to leave the nest and to not have this fear of like, oh, I have to go back, like something's not working or I'm scared. Yeah. I'll go home. There was never that.
Never even like crossed your mind. You were always focused on, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to be here.
Yeah. And I got it. Yeah. I had that job. And then I think I turned pro. They were going to like keep paying me, or they were going to, obviously start paying me to skate. And I forget the amount at the time, $500 or $600 a month. And I was like, dude, I'm going to keep working my security guard job and skate, and I'm going to just be rich. But yeah, eventually that job kind of went away pretty quick. And
was that like a full-time job, or was that just like
No, it was like 3 days a week, like 4 p.m. to like midnight or something I would work, so I could still skate some of those days, only a few days a week. And then, so I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, I'm really going to get ahead, save some money kind of thing.
Was that pretty common at the time? Like young pros like yourself, was it common to have a side job, or were you kind of the only guy doing that?
I think I was probably the only one. Later, like, getting to know Nikhil and like Rob Welsh, I think when they came out, they had jobs. Like they would probably work, they would have a job. Yeah, I think it was just like maybe the East Coast in us, at that time would just come out and have a job. But not many people had jobs. I think it was, you start to realize there's like a hustle around skateboarding, even if you're not, working a job, like you're getting all this product and you could probably sell like extra boards and product to like put the spending cash in, even if you weren't earning like a real salary in skating.
All right, let's do the next one. This one is from Aaron Meza. So he said, what was it like moving to SF in the early 90s? Scary, exciting, or both? And then he asked, who was the first local you met at EMB, and how was that interaction?
SF, yeah, obviously it was, exciting, scary. It was all those words all at once, right? But I think I just it was probably less scary because I think, I knew Greg Carroll, and he was scary. He kind of like parted the ways in a sense. I was already on like a brand that is a part of the city. So I was kind of getting, I don't know, a pass to come into the city, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, sure.
So that helped. And I don't know, I guess my demeanor, like I was not some guy that's coming in trying to show off in a sense to like be like, I'm here, check me out kind of vibe. So again, I think it just worked well with the city, you know, and the crew there. And God, I'm trying to think of the first person I met. Shamil Randall was someone that like really stands out as someone, like I was meeting like, you know, probably York, Shamil, Lee Smith, Greg Hunt, Carl. Like it was like, I remember Carl or someone would like just come up to you and be like, hey, what's up? Like, and just like in your face, like nice to meet you kind of thing, but kind of fuck with you at the same time.
Okay.
Same with Lee. So, yeah, like having like little kids come up to you that I feel like he was like much younger seeming at the time and just being like so down to fuck with you at the same time. Be like, oh, damn, these little kids, man. But Shamil, I remember Shamil for some reason standing out because I think I needed shoes or I think I needed something. And he's like, oh, FTC, I'll take you there. And just was like, he must have had to go as well. But just like this, you know, just meeting somebody first time, be like, yeah, I'll take you there. Let's hop on the bus and we'll go there. And I'll introduce you to Kent and, you know, get what you need kind of thing. That really stood out, you know.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's funny. People were nice to me in SF.
Yeah, I heard stories about it being kind of difficult to go there and skate. Like if you're not a local, you would not be invited kind of.
Yeah, I think they would call people out for kind of coming in too psyched and just, you know, just trying to, I don't know, like they could sense it and they would just call that out if it was like too forceful or what, you know. So yeah, there was definitely a tough time for people to come into that scene for sure.
Yeah. But you didn't experience that, like, as you said, you had already like the Think connection, so you were already kind of welcomed once you got there for the first time?
Yeah. I think not perfect, but I remember like, I think it was like Matt Schnur. No, it was Matt Schnur. He like skated up to me and was like, hey, want to buy some wheels? And I was like, no, I'm good. And he's like, sure, buy them full price at the store. Like gave me just crazy attitude and then like went away. Like he was just like kind of going down the line. So I was like, damn, all right, well, whatever. Just kind of moved on quick, but that was probably the extent of it for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
So the guy from AZ gave me all the shit.
All right, let's do this next one.
Well, I vividly remember seeing Scott's Sponsor Me video in 1990, his Venture Sponsor Me video, which we put in the Venture video with Greg Carroll. So I think the relevance of that is sort of like him migrating to San Francisco. And my question, you know, would be, I think Scott's always had like a really clear, clean, discernible style, but then his aesthetic style, his artistic taste style, and then the trajectory of his career, I would ask him, how did moving to San Francisco influence him creatively and artistically in a way that maybe his life went differently than if he stayed on the East Coast?
Damn, that's a good question.
Can you guess who it is?
Yeah, that was Jake Rosenberg.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Rosenberg.
Jacob Rosenberg, yes.
Yeah, I as well got to see him the other day at that 30 year, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool to have, I mean, this massive gap. I think by the time I got to SF and I was getting on, I didn't really see him around too much, little bits, but to meet him now, like as an adult and to have like this history of when we were pretty much kids and to know he was definitely in the background, like advocating for me in a sense, like he was like you could tell he was just like a good person from the start, you know, just definitely
supportive.
Yeah, he was definitely supportive. And it's funny as like he's like a kid, you know, and he's just like someone that's advocating for you and just caring about somebody else, which is funny. Everyone's just so focused on themselves at that age.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Mm-hmm. God, that's a big question. I'm really sitting with this one for a second because I want to
take your time. Yeah,
it's a pinnacle moment, and I started to see more than just skating. You know, like I saw probably like style. I like cool clothes. Like when I was young, I probably like polo and Air Force Ones and all these kind of things. That was of like I don't know, like not skating kind of gear, that just something you would wear to school or like to parties if I ever went to a party, that kind of thing, like something a little special than just like your skate gear. So I always thought of that, and your bows and like all these like little things that are like a really cool Gap striped shirts, whatever. So I saw that stuff. Obviously you did too, when like Blind Jeans and all that stuff popped out. You're like, oh, like these like moments that you're like, dude, that's like something special. Where the logo is, the branding, the fit, whatever. But yeah, SF, I think it was that melting pot of like SF, but then New York became like, everyone from New York started coming as well. And that was like when I was there, I was with Keith, and like, yeah, all of his friends from New York would come out, and I saw style in that sense as well, which I felt like was a bit more refined than what I was talking about. And then the brands, I had that exposure to obviously I would see stuff at Think as well, but when I went to skate for Mad Circle, that was when Justin was getting his computer set up, and Twist was supporting and submitting artwork, and Gorm Boberg would come out, and Justin and him would riff on graphics and stuff, and all these little details, and get so excited about it and share all that stuff with me. It just, again, it like got me really excited, and I didn't think it was for me to do at the time, but I was like, wow, that's super cool. I like to see this. I like to see it coming to life. And I don't know. And there was like this entrepreneurship of people doing stuff like that there, like starting things, little things. So yeah, I guess it became like kind of innate, like the brands, the product, the stuff. And just the interest in like making something different. And it was constant, like these little brands would always keep popping up around us too, and you're like, oh, that's a cool shirt, why is it cool? And I was like, oh, it's nodding to this, or I see it trying to speak to a different thing or something. Yeah, I think not just active skating, but the product definitely got me excited. Yeah, for sure. And it was like early on, so it kind of followed me through skateboarding, I think. And that became like an important part of skating, like the brands you skate for, the logos, just what the brand kind of DNA and what it stood for started to like become more clear to me. I think I made, choices, just even getting onto Think. I could see like a really cool point of view, and then it just kind of matured. My point of view on what I liked, it kind of evolved, as I did.
You mentioned Keith earlier, Keith Huffnagel and Chris Keefe and like all these New York skaters. I know that when you were living in Maryland, you went to DC. You mentioned that you skated Pulaski quite a bit. But did you go to New York at all to skate over there at the time? Or did you only go there after you had moved to SF?
Yeah, the first time in New York to skate was being flown out back to the contest. That would be the first time. Okay. When I lived in DC, I remember, I don't know, I think it was too far of an adventure, but I remember going to Philly, and we would go up to Philly and skate a few times. And that's just really wild to think. My mom probably didn't know where I was going. And I didn't have this like worry that I was doing the wrong thing, but I was like, yeah, I'm just going a little further. We have enough gas to go this far. Or go to Philly. There's something awesome there. There's this place. I think we just didn't even realize the significance of Love Park at the time until we went there and skated. And we would try to think we were going to skate other things, but we're like, no, this place is awesome. Why would we go anywhere else? So we would stay and skate Love Park. And yeah, dude, I remember going there. Yeah, I was probably 16 and just been like, yeah, we're skating. And I remember it was like Roger Brown and Ricky Iola were like, yeah, you can stay with me and spend the night. It was just me and it was probably like Marty and Jatai or Matt or some makeup of the crew. I just stayed at like Ricky Iola's house. Wow. and Roger Brown's. And like to think like how big that is later, sure. I was like, that's pretty sick.
What year was that? Like late 80s or very early 90s or?
Yeah, it must have been probably 1990, I would say. Yeah, right in there, 90, 91.
All right, let's do the next one.
Hey, Scotty, it's Jaime Owens. Please give us one of your best or favorite or any stories about living with the one and only Dimitry Elyashkevich. I'm sure there's a lot that you can dig up, but maybe one of the first ones that comes to mind. Hope all's well, brother. I love you. Bye.
Oh, man. Yo, I gotta be careful telling a story about Dimitry because he could just retaliate and tell stories about me and just really, yeah, it was fun. I mean, living together, you know, and like it's such an intimate time. Yeah, and the cameras would come out, so he could blow me up for sure. God, man, yeah, we couldn't be any more different, but it's so similar in some ways. We were just, yeah, what a funny makeup. But he was the best. Love Dimitry.
How long did you two live together?
I want to say probably about 4 years. I'm kind of roughly guessing.
Okay.
So he was like, yeah, come stay with me. He had a little spot right around the corner from Tremaine and like Sean Cliver. And I was like, yeah, I'll come stay with you. And then eventually we found an apartment. We got a 2-bedroom just down the block. And that was when everyone from SF was coming down as well. So Carol and Chico and Tony Ferguson had an apartment on like just streets down. Meza rented a spot right across from them. Sal and like Sal Barbier and Luciano that do like Elwood and stuff, they were really close. Keith and his girlfriend were there. And then there was like this tower, and that was like this revolving thing where like everyone was like coming into that spot as well. But yeah, it was what we called Scampus. It was like skate campus. It was, you know, yeah, pretty. I mean, we just did everything together. But God, Dimitry, man, I can't even think of any specific stories about him, or just I remember. God, I mean, it's not even like that amazing of a story, but it was funny because say if I went out or something and like went drinking to like a party or something, and he stayed home. And I think I would come home and I'd look at him and I'd be like, I just knew he loved going to Vegas. I was like, let's go to Vegas. And he was like, yep. He would just jump up, you know, it would be like midnight or something, midnight or 1. And I would say something so stupid like that, but he'd be like, hold you to it, let's go. And he would drive my car and take me out there. And then I'd wake up, you know, there. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do that for? You know, and then I'm stuck on Dimitri's like gamble time for like a day or whatever, a day or two, and then go back. But yeah, it was such a crazy thing. But that happened a few times, you know, where I don't know why I thought, again, you think it's a really brilliant idea after 4 beers or something, 6 beers, I don't know what it was. Yeah. And he loved it. He's like, haha, I'm definitely any reason to go, and I'm driving your car, let's go.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, there's way more probably interesting stories, more incriminating stories, both ways, I don't know. But yeah, I learned a lot from Dimitry. You know, I started to become more comfortable in my skin living with him. He's definitely like a challenge to me. And yeah, he's a smart dude. As wild as he is, he's a sharp person.
Okay, let's do this next one.
Hi, Scooch. It's Meech. I have a question for you. Can you explain what campus was? Thanks. Another question. Who was your favorite roommate that you have lived with? Speaking
of the devil?
I think, yeah, I definitely, like I said, Dimitry is by far my favorite roommate. We spent a lot of time getting distant, but there's a closeness to him that I think I'll forever hold. And he was my best man at my wedding, you know, at that point, because he was, again, such a growing point in my life that he was there to be a part of, but to also to kind of help me and shape me in ways of just like, I don't know, you learn a lot from your friends through your friends. So yes, he was my favorite roommate for sure. And I better say that because like I said, he'll no, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, it was, dude, we had so much fun. We did, everything together. And I think we were all just like in such a fun time of our life. Go golf, go eat together, go out together. I don't think, every once in a while we would shoot photos, you know, but it was funny. We were like right there, but we were like, he was going into the office more when we lived together. So he probably wasn't shooting as much, but you know, every once in a while. And then we would travel together on trips and stuff. So yeah, we did a lot together. What was the other part of the question?
He asked, can you explain what campus was, but you talked about it earlier.
Yeah, I think campus, Sal deemed it scampus, like skate campus. But
Right,
yeah, it
yeah.
was, I mean, everyone was there. And then eventually like Chris Casey and, Wade Barth and like a lot of other dudes. And then there was like that tower I was talking about where it was, I think Bird was up in there, Jason Searcy, I think Deerdick, Abe had a spot there.
Okay.
Stevie Williams lived up in that building. Like everyone was nearby. And I mean, I don't think we ever ate alone. Like Costume he was off campus. Eric lived in like a house. I think everyone else was like in the apartments. Eric and Barra lived pretty close, but I mean, everyone was there. We'd probably every breakfast we were meeting up, lunches, going to Tower Records together. I mean, it was just everyone was inseparable in a sense. And yeah.
Oh, that must have been fun.
It was really, it was special.
Okay, let's do the next one. This one is from Colin Kennedy. So he said, my question for Scott is a dorky one, and it's 3 questions technically. In the first issue of 411, you have an opener at Brown Marble doing what looks like a perfectly executed level backside wheel slide. Was that on purpose? And if not, what were you trying? And secondly, were you aware that it had been submitted to this brand new thing, 411 VM, at the time? And what was your reaction when you saw it in there? At the time, my friends and I were stupefied by it.
Yeah, to be honest, again, it was like the same thing as that front crook that I was telling you about. Like
happy accidents.
Probably trying to get in a front side, nose side. And I think I was just trying like a backside tail side. And maybe it was like filming a line or something. And I was like working with a backside tail side. And then that just freaking perfectly happened. And I don't even remember like looking back at stuff. Didn't think anything about it. I remember I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. Either the backside, tail side, just kind of, I think I like hooked on the kingpin and then just kind of and then whatever, just smooth out of and just gone. And then didn't think anything of it. It was like, oh, that was cool. And then 411 comes out and then it's like this big, these dun 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 dun, like those things, those openers. I mean, they were pretty sick, like there was like this theatrical kind of thing of like the way a video started out was very different. I knew of Mad's 411 just because of the relationship to Mad Circle. It was the same, house. So I knew they were building something, but didn't get to see the behind the scenes. And I was like, whoa, like that was pretty cool. Didn't mean to do that, but everyone's pretty stoked on it. So I'll just, again, ride with it.
All right, the next one is from Justin Girard. So he said, you had a big influence on Mad Circle apparel from both a quality and style standpoint from the beginning. When and how did your interest in apparel begin? Was this something you and Huff developed together in part? Second question is, do you miss the more DIY, autonomous, creative period in skateboarding? Do you think it could make a comeback? And his third and last question is, favorite or funniest EMB nickname from your time on the bricks?
Yeah, I think the Mad Circle time, like I probably mentioned when I was young, I think we were buying like polo gear or like Nautica and things like this. And yeah, I just was kind of trying to translate that into skateboarding. I think everyone was trying to do it to some extent at that point. And Justin just gave me a bit of ownership in a sense. So like, oh, what do you think, Scott? Like, go buy something and tell me if that's cool and we should make it. And go into like Benetton or some these like things like maybe weren't the most pinnacle reference or the most obvious references. I was like, oh, but Benetton's dope and things like this. So again, I think he just let me exercise my voice in a sense to talk about things. I didn't really do any design, but I was like, oh, this is dope because I just like the way the color is landing or something. Not really getting too close to the detail, but yeah, there was something about like clothing. I don't remember. I remember like I would always like go to like Banana Republic and buy clothes. I felt like it was like a nicer version of Gap. So I started to learn like there was different tiers in fabric and different tiers and like leveling up. And polo, like I mentioned, was awesome. It was aspirational, but it was probably kind of expensive. So you probably didn't want to skate in that. So just trying to find these like clever ways to find better product or better quality product. Yeah, I started to feel like there was like add values in like how material reacted and draped and stuff. And these are words that I definitely wasn't using back then, like the designers today. But it was something that I could feel like there was like a inferior product and there was better levels for sure that I liked.
And what about the second question, like the autonomous creative period in skating, like the more DIY creative period in skateboarding? He asked, do you think it could make a comeback? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's here. Actually, I think it has made a comeback. I think it's here. I think, there's a lot of small brands that are doing it and doing it differently and more than ever because they can be in control of their whole ecosystem of sales and everything.
Yeah.
They're not relying on anything, so they can do everything how they see it. And, I love 917, Bianca Chandon, Alex is like my boy, so I'll use that as an example. But I love that he can have a really specific point of view and just do it his way and not let any sort of waiver to, sales reps and all this stuff kind of change your
influence his
perspective.
Creative. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's here. Maybe, Justin and I are both kind of out of the loop a little bit in that sense, or maybe Justin more. He's peering back in more than ever. But yeah, it's here. Yeah, it's definitely here.
Mm-hmm. And do you have an EMB nickname that comes to mind from back in the day?
For myself, for other people, everyone had nicknames and it was just crazy, like everyone was a nickname.
Were you called Mr. Clean or Mr. Neat at the time? Did that start then or did that come later?
I didn't get an SF nickname, I don't think. That came later, like the chocolate days. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they were crude, man. They called like Nick, like Big Reg, but in a sense they were just all really tough on each other, but like tough love. Yeah.
Greg told me when I interviewed Greg a few weeks ago, he told me his nickname was Slothman. Did you hear about that one?
Slothman. Yeah. Yeah, there was some brilliance-ness to these nicknames these dudes would hand out.
Okay, then I have a few questions from Cairo Foster. I'll read them to you and you can pick and choose. So he said, what is it like skating with your son? Then he asked also, playing golf, ? What did you bring from Lakai to Adidas? What was different as far as process between the two as far as skate shoes? How does it feel to be back in LA? And do you recall any wild stories on the 7 train to Flushing Meadows?
Yeah. What was the first?
The first one was skating with your son.
Anything with my son is probably the most magical thing in my life now. Like he's
14 years old, you said, right?
He's about 14 now. He's not skating right now and he's not interested in. He'll say he wants to and then maybe go for a second, then he loses interest. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when he's like, I don't push it. So I'm always like, yeah, you want to do it? And I just pounce like, let's go. And we just, and it's funny because I'm there to I don't know why I want to catch him, I'm there to spot him and I'm like, oh yeah, you can do this and I'll be right here to grab you if things go so you don't loop out or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, anything. Skating specifically, I don't think we get to do it as much as I would love, and maybe it'll happen. I'm always kind of waiting right now. He plays tennis, so I'm jumping in and trying to learn how to play tennis because I would love to be there to play with him if he needs somebody.
Yeah.
And plus, it's an awesome sport. I want to learn it. Mm-hmm. Golf specifically is something that I don't have enough time in the day to play it, but I truly do love it. And it's funny, people are always like, golf, that's the opposite of skateboarding because it's this conservative, upper class kind of sport. But
oh yeah, in that regard, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, but when you play it and you hit the ball and you start to learn, it's just you versus this thing. It's like skateboarding. It's super hard. You got to keep trying, pick yourself up. It's just you versus your situation. But it's this compression kind of, there is this smack. It's not even a smack. It's just a feeling, a sound, this compression that reminds me of skateboarding in a sense when you really do, I don't know, pop a trick, but or grind and really have that that gritty freaking when something just feels and sounds so good. Mm-hmm. There's that with golf. And when you is just done so well, and when you look up and then you see the outcome to what you did, and it's just it's the best feeling. It's a lot like skating in that sense, and those parallels.
There's a lot of pro skaters that have gone into golf. A lot of your chocolate and girl teammates I know play golf, and
yeah,
a lot of skaters get into golf. It looks like, yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if it might be that. I've never really sat around and had that discussion with other, skaters. But there's also they have a lot more freedom, that time and they need that time to kind of recover from skateboarding.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I can go golf though. My body's a little sore, but I can go golf or go in the morning.
It's more accessible. It's less tough on your body, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the other stuff?
So he asked also about what you brought from Lakai to Adidas. What was different as far as process between the two, as far as skate shoes?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what I specifically brought in process, but I had a good understanding of a bit of everything coming from Lakai, because small thing, we didn't have developers, so I learned that part of design, or just how to get the manufacturing done, and maybe costing was something I understood. There's a bit of everything. So I came with that, but you go to a thing like Adidas and everyone's an expert in their fields, and they go more, specific. So not broad. Mm-hmm. And then I think I learned, and it helped me get better as a designer, because I didn't have to figure out or design with my know-how of how a shoe was made. I could design with let's figure it out. Here's a cool idea. I don't quite know how to do this. And then there's people on the other side of the desk or table that were like, oh, I know what you want to do, and this is what I've seen done in the past. Or if you do this like this, then we can make that come to life. And it was this learn to of collaboration versus designing in isolation. I could just say, oh, here's a good idea, and everyone would be like, oh, that's cool, and just make it as is, or with how I know how to do it. And there wasn't that that back and forth to learn and to grow and to make things better. And that was probably the biggest thing, the biggest learning in a sense. And then there's tons more, but that was
sure.
The most.
That's what comes to mind right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes to mind. But yeah, it was a great opportunity for sure.
The two last ones were, how does it feel to be back in LA? When did you move back to LA? It was recently, right? Yeah,
it's funny. Everyone asked me that. A lot of pressure on that question, to be honest. I'm always like, I don't know. It's just this weird transition. I don't know. I haven't been here for 8 years. I come back a lot. It's this learning, reacquainting to it. I think I've always loved it after living here. So yeah, the weather, super stoked on that. Obviously, that's easy to say.
Did you move back to the same area where you lived last when you were in LA?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not living in the same place. We're in Pasadena now, which was a place that I would go to and visit, and held it in high regards, and oh, Pasadena's dope. It looks awesome. There's great resources there, or the proximity to the city and stuff. It's positioned really well. So I was like, oh, that's a good place to go. If we were to go back, that would be the place to go for those reasons. And yeah, that's where we set up. It works well for my job. I'm able to take some of the learnings of living in Portland, not trying to spend all your time in the car, and just kind of living closer to your workplace and having an easier lifestyle like that, which is nice. And then now looking back, you're just like, oh, but then you have all of LA to go use and see. And we have friends all over this, the big city. So it forces you to yes, I'm trying to talk about living this easy, small life, but I think that's more just about that job work-life balance. So you're not spending all your time driving up and down the freeway and missing time with your family. But then on the weekends and stuff, are we going to go to the beach? Are we going to go to the valley? Are we going to go? There's so much reasons to kind of go around here. But yeah, we love LA. Had a great time in Portland, and I do love it as well. The weather was tough. The weather here makes it very easy to always kind of have the opportunity to be outside and to do things. And because I feel living in Portland, there was such a pressure to be oh my God, it's a nice day. We got to do something because it's nice. And there's this tension about a nice day of maximizing it. And now you just kind of always know it's there for you. So you kind of just are always, you're not this panic to use it, and you just end up using it more. I think I'm utilizing the weather more because I'm not putting this tension to do it, Yeah. So that's been huge.
How did your kids react to your decision to move back to LA? Because when you left, they were quite young, right? Like your son was like 6 or around there, I guess.
Yeah. Son was 5 or 6. My daughter was 8. They thought it was cool to move to Portland. They're like, "Wow, we're moving," like didn't put any thought into it.
Okay.
And we were there for 8 years, and I think when this new opportunity came up, I went to them because I'm like, "Look, you're older." I sat them down and I thought I was doing a good job because I was like, I have this opportunity. I just didn't tell them I took a job, but I was like, I have this opportunity. It's really cool. There's a lot of growth potential for me. And the thing is, it's in LA, and I kind of set them up and they were like, wow, that does sound really cool. That does sound like an awesome opportunity. Wow, that's exciting. And they were receptive in like a really, mature way, both of them.
Cool.
And ultimately I have to make the decision anyways, me and my wife. And I think, I don't know, it was like a month later and my daughter's like, we're in the car and she's like, "Hey, I don't think you should take that job." And I was like, oh, I did take it, and, I saw like a tear fall down her eye and it was like just devastating. And she was really resistant. She was like, "I'm not moving. Like, I'm just going to live in my friend's garage." She had just, she was really anchoring down. And it makes sense. My son was like, "Yeah, I'll miss my friends and I'll miss this, but I'm good," and I think he's doing okay with it. We've been here for 3 months now. Mm-hmm. He's doing okay. Like he's, again, kids are more resilient. School takes a lot of your time. It's harder here. He's learning a new work ethic that maybe he didn't have because homework wasn't a thing there. But he's got his guitar thing that's going on. We're trying to like keep him busy with like all his activities. And he's doing a great job, like guitar, tennis, all these things. And my daughter, school's tough for her, but socially she's doing like extremely well, making friends, making good friends. I mean, she learned something even in Portland, like that last like 6 months or something. She became really comfortable with herself and very confident and more social. So she's doing really well. Yes, she would probably love to just go back. But she's not, most days they're not talking about going backwards. They're always about going forwards, which is nice. So,
yeah.
And Portland is a part of our, forward, like, oh, we'll go back to visit or we're going to do this, but it's not just retreating, which I like. And they're learning resilience and they're learning tough situations and adaptation, all these things that I'm always like, God, am I ruining like there's like a magical moment in childhood? Am I taking that magic away? Like, you only have one childhood. You only have one of everything. So again, as a parent, you're always just like the fear of like, am I making a bad decision? Am I messing them up? All these things. But we care. And I think that's me and my wife care. We're here for them. If they want it or not, we're constantly here for them and talking to them and trying to engage them in their needs and wants and our expectations. So I have faith that whatever it is, it will work out. My wife hates that about me. I'm always like, it'll work out.
No, but it's a good. I think it's a good life philosophy. Like, just be confident, just move forward, and it will work itself out. Kind of,
Yeah, because I mean, some of the worst moments in my life are like what I thought was like, oh, this sucks. When I look back, I'm like, dude, that was awesome. That was magical. Like being stuck, like on a skate trip and you're like, dude, I don't want to be here. I just want to be in the hotel and stuck behind his Vons at 3 a.m. with the generators going. And now you're like, oh, that was sick.
Yeah. It's all about like getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's where the growth happens, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And what about the last questions? That one was about New York, like about Flushing Meadows, going on the 7 train. What's that about?
I don't know. I probably do know, but yeah.
It's not something you can share.
You can check out, Lee did a podcast with me.
Yeah,
Mission
Statement. Yes.
He did the same thing. He asked that question. And so if people want to hear that one, they can just go to that version. But
okay. Because I saw it, but I saw it when it came out. It's been a few years, so I didn't watch it again for this. So yeah. Okay, I'll go back and check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I got sick. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next one is from Joey Pepper. So he asked, which is a greater force in your life, FOMO or JOMO? Explain why and tell us about a real life experience.
Yeah, what's JOMO?
I guess it's joy of missing out. I didn't even look it up, but I guess it must be that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I've ever heard of JOMO, the joy of missing out, which is pretty funny. But I might actually, now in these ages, actually, maybe I've always not had the problem of missing out. I've always been down to break out a little early and head home. So I don't think I'm the last one at the club or the party or the last one to be standing. I'm always like, yep, and that was good. And I'm down to head home.
Okay.
And maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know. Pertaining to this, I can't imagine. There was probably so many skate trips that I probably dipped out early on. I don't know if he's talking about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, yeah, I'm just going to go home. Like, which is incredibly crazy to think about. You getting flown maybe internationally, or the plan was for you to be on a trip for a month to film or to show up at demos and stuff. And I thought it was fine to just be like, I'm just going to dip out. I'm going to go home. I'd rather just be home. And God, it's so crazy. I'm professional. But I remember not that long ago a story pertaining to him where we're just at like a family, like just a barbecue at our friend's house, which is funny. It has nothing to do with design or skateboarding, but we were all hanging out, some skaters, some ex-skaters, or always a skater, I guess, hanging out at the barbecue. And then I'm like, all right, I'm tired. I'm going to go home. I think I took my son home, left my wife wanted to hang out longer. And I think within like 15, 20 minutes, I probably got into bed, like, just like chilling in bed. I wake up that night at like 1 a.m. My wife's still not home. And then I get all these voicemails. She's with Joey. They're trying to get her home. He drove her home after the barbecue at like, it was probably like 10:30. It was like probably 30 minutes after I left.
Okay.
No response. My wife had to like sleep over Joey's house because couldn't get her in the house. And I had to go pick her up the next day at his house, which is just fucking the outcome of me not being afraid to miss out. And I just
That's funny.
So comfortably went to bed. Wife's not here. But yeah, I had such a panic in the middle of the night. And went over there. She was good. She was over at Joey Pepper's house, just sleeping on the couch, just having a good old adventure. And for me, yeah, such a goof.
How did you connect with Joey, by the way? Like, because I was trying to think if you had written for similar sponsors, but I don't think board-wise, at least, you never wrote for the same companies.
No, good question. He lived in LA for a little bit, and he was roommates with Ben Colin, the photographer. Yes. And I think I hung with Ben a bit more, Joey a little bit. But I think when Joey lived in LA, he was, I think, in and out of injuries. I think he was seriously stuck at home nursing like major, I don't know, knee or ankle problems where he wasn't out and about. So I think our paths were like close, at that point, but not hanging out a lot. Not until moving to Portland, we just started to hang a lot more there over the past, 8 years. And
he's still out there, isn't he?
Yeah, he still lives there. Yeah, it was one of the harder, leaving him and his wife and, our tight-knit crew definitely made it hard to leave for sure.
Yeah.
But we go back. We have plans to go back for Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. So we'll be hanging with them hopefully shortly.
Okay, so this next question is from Tim Anderson from Bob Shirt. You did a great interview with him a couple years ago. I don't remember what year it was, but maybe 5 years ago or something. So he asked, what is the weirdest shoe you ever tried to skate in? Did you ever try skating Timberlands when that was a thing? And also, your early Switch 360 flips were inspirational. Who was the first person you saw land one in person?
Wow, that's a fun question. God, weirdest shoe I've ever tried to skate in. Yeah, and thanks for reminding me, that interview, he does a really good interview.
Yeah.
I remember meeting him on the street, sorry to jump back, but I remember meeting him. He's like, just meet me on this block. And he's all prepared, cameras out. He's like, stand here, like really, 25 feet away kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was really taken back by that, but the outcome is incredible. He really catches you off guard. These items come to you and he just keeps it going with all these surprises.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It's great. Yeah. I love his interviews.
Yeah. Weirdest shoe. God. That's tough. I wish I was prepared. I don't know if I tried to skate in any too weird of shoes.
I read somewhere that that was when you were skating for Lakai, like that you went on like shopping trips with Mike Carroll and Rick Howard, and that you would go like search for inspiration for like designing shoe models for Lakai, and that you would buy sometimes like fashion shoes like Prada or some other brands like that. Did you ever try to skate in those, or did you just buy them to study them and kind of...
I think everyone bought them to like kind of look at them from afar and cherish like the lines and stuff. And I would imagine they were probably bought in like maybe Mike or Rick size, or even Sung, you know, the designer at the time. So they could wear them later. Mm-hmm. So it probably made it into one of their closets, not mine. I was just kind of like in the background at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, weirdish skate shoes. I think I was pretty good about looking at. I guess when I was first started skating, which is kind of cool. I think back, it was, it was basketball shoes and cheap basketball shoes, and the brand Troop was this. I don't know, probably got them for $29, but they were like highly overbuilt basketball shoes, super hard. I don't know why. I wasn't looking at the skateability beyond like ankle protection, I guess, when I was that young. Mm-hmm. But I would get them home and realize they're not that skatable, or they're too stiff. So I remember like taking the insole out and cutting away at the Strobel board. Now, like being a footwear designer, learning like what that was like a kind of bigger component into like holding this shoe together. But I didn't realize like this extra, I called it cardboard at the time, like kind of cutting at it. And then eventually I think just realizing I could just rip the whole thing out or cut like a half of it out to make it more flexible. Mm-hmm. So I thought that, reflecting on that recently, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I was tinkering with shoes back in the day, and those are definitely not like skate shoes. They were highly overbuilt. So that would probably be my best attempt at that answer.
Okay.
And then what was the other bit?
Switch 360 flips, yeah.
Oh, Switch 360.
Yeah. He said your early Switch tray flips were very inspirational, and so who was like the first person you saw ever landing one in person?
I don't remember. It's funny when you asked that question, I was like, 360 flips, man, I did not have good 360 flips. But for some reason, Switch could just release a lot easier than the regular.
Okay.
And it's funny, back then, I think tricks were kind of coming about so quickly that you didn't realize like where they're coming from, kind of thing. And sometimes you'd like to have the fantasy, like, I think I made that up, like, I don't know if there was anyone specific that was doing them to the point where I was like, oh, I'm going to learn that trick. God, who had a good one? It's funny, I just think of, there's some that just jump out at me, like Ave had like the best switch tray flip. And for some reason, I think that just distracts me from any sort of other, like memory of a switch 360 flip. I think, I don't know, but Ave had the best one,
Yeah, still to this day, probably one of the best ones for sure.
Yeah, and it's that same kind of like, it just releases, but his releasing go like really high,
Yeah, and fast.
They're the best.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't think of. It's funny. I'm like trying to think, and I'm like, was it Shamil Randall? But now I'm like, did he even do Swiss 360 flips? I don't even know. But for some reason, I could see like a body language guy had one. Mm-hmm. The way he'd like lean his whole body over, and like his whole head would be tipped over, and it's just like this kind of setup, and then it just releases. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it was that over that Santa Monica gap to gap. That might be it. That might be the one that really jumped out at me from the super past, I guess.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was thinking that Rick Howard as well, I think, was a good Switch 360 flipper. Probably not the first one to do them, but I remember seeing one in like the Plan B videos maybe from back in the day before Girl.
Yeah,
like he did some pretty cool ones, like on a a bank or something.
The big bank, the Burrow Bank. Yeah. Rick's probably the only person that could do really good Switch 360 flips and regular. I think it was a trade-off. I don't know many people that could do them both ways. Like I can't reflect Ave doing regular 360 flips.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, next one is so I'm gonna butcher his name, and I'm very sorry, but it's Nikhil Thayer. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, you said it. Yeah, Nikhil. Yeah.
Nikhil. Okay. So he said, growing up as a skateboarder near DC in the 80s and early 90s, you must have been exposed to a lot of different types of music. Hip-hop, punk, indie, hardcore, or whatever labels people want to use. Did you ever get to see any bands from that era that left a lasting impression on you? Or are there any bands that you missed that you wish you hadn't?
Oh, I mean, I probably still think about this today because, you know, I would go into DC and skate Pulaski a lot. And that was like the time where like Bad Brains and Fugazi were like
popping
there. Mm-hmm. And I remember people being like, yeah, we're going to go to the 930 Club. Fugazi's playing. It's like $5 to go. And for me, I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to go skate. And I would just go skate the parking garage and skate like an additional 5 hours. And I've already skated all day. And just thinking, not realizing the importance of seeing live music back then.
Yeah.
So I would just be like, I just get the tape and I'll just listen to the tape when I, you know, whatever on the way to skate, and I don't need that to go see it. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize any of the importance, and now I'm like, that was the biggest miss. It's like, it kills me. Could have changed my life. So that, yeah, Fugazi and Bad Brains. There was so many times I was like, heard they were playing somewhere like really small and intimate, like those priceless moments that I just let them go. Just let it slip right by.
He asked a couple other things. So he said, you're planning a 1-week skate trip in 2023. Who are you bringing and where are you going?
Golly, 2023. That's pretty sick. I think I would probably have to scoop up Joey and Nikhil because I've been hanging with them. And then Silas would probably jump in because, you know, he rolls with them more than not. And I found him to be the most like amazing person living in Portland. I was like, he's low key one of the sickest dudes. People that know him know like this, but not everyone knows how amazing of a human he is. And then I would probably have to think back to like Andy Henry was probably one of my most favorite people to skate with. Mm-hmm. He skated he just would come down to Girl, like when I was working there, and we would just have the best sessions. And then I would have him, you know, like probably still grab Rick and Mike too. They're probably some of the funnest people to skate with. Yeah. And I probably can't have too many people on the trip, so I'd probably just have to end it there. There's probably people I'm missing, but Rick, Mike, Andy Henry, and then, Joey, Silas, and Nikhil. I think that'd be a pretty sick crew.
Yeah, for sure.
Where would we go? I don't know. Probably somewhere with a lot of mix of transition, like skate parks and maybe go to Australia. Just skate, you know, good weather, jump in the ocean. Yeah. I love, dude, I've been going to the ocean a lot still. So I like that opportunity to mix it in. So we'll just say we're going to go to Australia and skate and hit the beach in the morning or something.
Okay, and his last question is, what is your favorite board that you saved from your years in skateboarding, and why is it on your basement floor?
Yeah, he's great, man. He went to check in on my house in Portland, and he saw all my boards just sitting like on the concrete floor. And you know, he has a property management business, so he's probably seen so many things go bad in the basements of Portland. He's like, you got to get those boards off the floor. So the last time I went there, I did get them up on like these Baker racks and got them safe. I don't know. Obviously some of the Mad Circle, the twist ones are like quite incredible because they're like high quality art at this point, you know. Mm-hmm. Like I have some of the art that's framed, and I remember taking the art from Justin Girard, and he would be handing it to me like, no, dude, like I don't want to give this to you. But like, come on, it's my board graphic. Let me get it. Yeah. You know, specifically there was the one where it was like the kind of melancholy character holding the cane. He looks really sad. And sketched it over note paper, and he sewed the note paper together by hand, like multiple layers, you know, hand sewn. I think Justin was probably paying like $300 per graphic or something, and then just getting that original art next to the board is quite priceless.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that stands out. All the chocolate boards were pretty rad. It was pretty special to have a board on chocolate, obviously.
For sure.
Yeah. I remember my first board was like almost like a logo board with the flags, but it was spot on, like super clean and like just my like aesthetic, I guess. Mm-hmm. And eventually I think they started to make a board series out of that graphic. But yeah, anything in the chunk kind of writing. I think there was one that said Scooch like on the top. I thought that was pretty dope. Yeah, I don't know, man. Nikhil's giving me crap for having my boards out on the floor, but if I went down there every once in a while, I'd like kind of, flick through them and something else would make it to the top. And it was kind of fun to look at them. So,
did you collect a lot of boards throughout the years, like from your different sponsors, or?
I think I did. I don't think I missed one board. So I have all my boards.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty because you've had a long career, so you probably have like at least 100 or maybe over that different pro models.
Yeah, I've never counted them, but yeah, definitely over 50, 60, 70. I don't know, but it's a lot, and yeah, it looks cool. There's some fun ones.
Okay, next one is from Pontus Alv. So he said, ask him back in the days if he set up a new board, did he set up new wheels, etc. with it. He was always the cleanest looking skater I've seen. He always had new gear nonstop, 2-3 sessions, then almost new.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't even know if that was just me, but I think that was just like the way, like you're skating all the time. So after I would say 3 days, the board pretty beat up, or at least visually beat up. Mm-hmm. And every time in my head, if I changed my board, I changed my wheels. I would never set up a new board without new wheels. There's something the balance was off. Yeah.
Oh,
it just seemed like those are the two things that's supposed to change at the identical time. That's
oh yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Guess, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then old trucks. But then there was something I had this thing you don't set up new shoes on an old board, because then there's something really there's a disconnect there as well, maybe with the grip tape and something, or at least a superstition. I'm not saying every 3 days it was new board, new shoes, new wheels, but when the new shoes came in, there was a plan there was a bit of a strategy in my head.
Okay.
And then the gear, I think, I don't know, just clean, just keep it clean.
Yeah.
I don't think at that point, probably just wearing lots of just t-shirts and whatever pants kind of I was able to come across through skate shops, or, I mentioned, going to Banana Republic or the Gap or something. Mm-hmm. But definitely, I don't know. I definitely, at that point, I think I would take showers probably twice a day. I'd probably take a shower in the morning to kind of wake up and start my day. Yeah. And after skating all day, I would probably, take a shower as well. So,
is that where you got your nickname, or the Mr. Clean?
I guess. I don't know, man.
You don't remember how it started, or?
Yeah, I don't know. These nicknames just pop up, and you're just okay. Uh-huh. That was something maybe of a board graphic thing with chocolate, right? So I think everyone was Mr. This or Mr. That. So I was real obvious Mr. Clean. But on the daily, I don't think people would call me Mr. Clean as a nickname.
Okay. Yeah. That was kind of the next question. The next question is from Tony Ferguson. And he said, ask him why they call him Mr. Clean, and how many times a week would he wash his car?
Yeah. I remember, it's funny, I think probably when we were hanging out the most, that's when I got my first car. I got a Honda Accord. I probably thought I was buying a silver car, and then looking 6 months into owning it, I was this thing is cashmere or something. It's this gold, shiny gold kind of color with tan leather interior. Super funny. But and then I even had one of those, because LA, you get all I would probably get car washes. I was so stoked to keep it nice, first car, and just probably once a week. But then I got one of these duster things that was in the trunk, and I'd pull it out and just dust the car off, take that LA dust layer off the car.
Okay.
And then I remember people give me shit. I think I had extra t-shirts in my car to be damn, it stands. I remember Rob Welsh will tell the story, but Scott maybe chains to get in his car, but I had lace shirt, here, sit on this, and you had tan leather seats. Yeah, so that was very visible to everyone. I was neurotic, I guess, about keeping my car nice. Sorry, guys.
All right, let's do this next one.
Hi, Scott. This is Jesus from Spain. It's been a while. I hope you're doing okay. My question is, who was the most influential skater that inspired you to become a great skater like you were and you are? And if you have a few, who were the most influential skater that you look up to or that you get inspired from to become a great skater? Take it easy.
Dude, what's up, Jesus? That's so sick. Love that. He's the best. Dude, I don't know. I mean, really quickly, the first person that jumps out at me is Sean Sheffy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was the biggest, and he's still the baddest, like, that came out of DC. And I you know, he was like this mythical, like, legend. He would show up at some contest that I would be at and just fucking, I mean, not in a contest in the way that I was competing against him. He was like already in the sponsored league.
Yeah.
Like really sponsored kind of dude, and he would just show up and just rip. I mean, he would just like skate like a man. I mean, no one skated like him, you know. And then eventually he just kind of went off to California, and that was our dude. That was the guy. And I think just skating Pulaski, there was like this sense of like faster is better, you know, like Sean skates fast, and like that was the momentum to make, I think, even for me, like when I would skate, and when the camera would come out for me, I'd be like, oh, but now that I'm filming, I have to go like I have to push a little faster now, because this is the real version, and anything that you do has to be fast. So I think hands down, he would be the biggest influence for me. It's funny, I don't look like him at all in my way of skating, but he would be the hands down most influential. I mean, there's Carroll, obviously, is super influential.
Yep.
And, you know, like Henry Sanchez, all the early SF dudes, like that was the biggest draw, you know, like that was the next level kind of thing. But yeah, I would say Sheffy.
This is a side question, but like, is there someone today that really stands out to you, like from in recent times, a skater that you've seen skate in person, maybe whether he's like an Adidas sponsored skater or Chocolate Girl, whatever, or completely other brands? Is there someone that really impressed you that you saw coming out in the last few years or something?
These days it's crazy. You know, anyone new, it's just mind blowing. You know, obviously I have an affinity towards Tyshawn. He's like the best. He's the best. You know, he's incredibly talented. Just his way about things is just nuts.
Did you get to skate with him a bit?
No. I didn't get to skate with him. So just from like afar or whatever, just seeing him kind of do his thing. But to skate with, Guy, obviously, still to this day, you know, he just put out a clip the other day, and I don't get to skate with him, and I'm always, because we probably get to see each other at least every, like, maybe once a month. We like hang out and, you know, get together as families and stuff. And skateboarding is never, I mean, maybe like he talks about like what he sees in the world of skateboarding, and maybe me as well, but we don't talk. I don't really know what he's doing, and then stuff like that comes out. I'm like, fucking Guy. Just blowing our minds still.
I just saw something on Instagram. You did like I don't know what you call that, but like a kind of a power slide, but doing a manual. Blunt power slide or something. I don't know how you call that, but
yeah, that's what I just saw too. It was like a perfect manual, perfectly balanced, no tail skidding.
Yeah, amazing.
All those details. Yeah, so I think he has a good cadence to how he brings things out and just keeps us all tripping.
Okay, this one is from RB Umali. So he said, what was it like traveling with Keith on the Stussy Japan tours back in the early 2000s?
You know what? It was cool to just be traveling with, like, everyone was my friends, you know, like everyone we've been talking about and many more. But we were on Stussy because we were friends, you know, like I think I got on, Richie got me on, and then Keith was like, no way, dude. I want to get on. And I was like, yeah, let's get you on. And I went down there to Stussy to get him on the company. And Stussy was rad. It was like this professional. It wasn't like uptight professional, but I remember Keith going in, and it was almost like a job interview. Like we'd go in and like, they just wanted to get to know you and just talk and kind of get a vibe for who you are, because from afar, they're just like, oh, good skateboarding, that's fine and all, but they really care more about like who was going to represent this company in a sense, like, are you a good person? So I think just traveling with Keith, just knowing we were like good friends, that was pretty dope. Yeah, I mean, priceless, obviously. It was the shopping, the buying the stuff. I think we all had like the similar interests all at the same time. Just the funny adventures, the nuances. I don't know. I don't think there's any certain one thing I could say about like, yeah, I think it almost is just like makes my brain go crazy into so many stories about him and how lucky we were to have all that time with him.
Did you go on a lot of trips to Japan with him and Stussy?
I can at least remember 2. The Stussy trips in general, yeah, in RB was pretty dope. We were on those trips. We were well taken care of. We would go for quite a bit of time, maybe 10 days, and just kind of camp out pretty much in Tokyo and go on these little day trips to other towns. But nothing better than going to Tokyo, and then you get to go there with your friends and just to have like good amount of time to do things and see things. And it wasn't in this crazy rush of like one thing after another. We would just like go skate and film.
Take your time.
Like go out to dinners. I remember Robbie, we didn't have per diem, but Robbie Jeffers would just be like there, like everywhere we went, like, oh, you guys want 7-Eleven? And everyone would just be like pushing all their stuff on the counter. Be like, I'm getting that stuff, like it's just such a crazy assortment. So it was, like staying in the best hotels, best dinners. Yeah, we were well cared for. It was dope.
Okay, this one is from Mike O'Mealy. So he said, ask him if he ever had a spill on clothing situation that sent him home from a session. Like, did he ever have an oops poops? Also, ask him how it felt after the 180 switch crook, the Wilshire / Jaquan gap to ledge. That last part, that's something I'm sure that probably comes up a lot to this day. That's one of your like legendary tricks, 180 switch crook, and especially on that spot. But yeah, like what about the first part, like the?
It's dude. Honestly, I think this story came up last night because my son was, I don't know, like getting super embarrassed about like something. I was like, dude, you have no idea, like the embarrassments that are gonna come your way and that I've had to deal with, and you just have to power through it. But I think it was like we were talking about like underwear or something, and I was like, oh, and my wife's like, don't you remember like Scott had to like dad had to rip off his sleeves on his shirt to like wipe his butt, because I think I was in Japan. I might have been on a Stussy, like one of those Stussy trips.
Okay.
And I like went to the bathroom, like a public bathroom. There's no toilet paper. And I was like about to skate something. And I was like, I kind of need my underwear because I can't skate without my underwear.
Oh, yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. But I was like, I'm going to use my sleeves. And I think I ripped the sleeves off my shirt and like used it as like toilet paper. I came out and I clearly didn't get any footage because there'd be footage of me skating in like a sleeveless t-shirt. And, but at least I stayed clean that way. That would be one that jumps out because it kind of came up last night as my son laughing. I have more, obviously. I have so many. I'm older now, so clearly we got lots of stories like that.
And so, what about the Jaquan 180 switch crook? What did you use to call this part? Was it beneficial before it got named Jaquan? Yeah,
it was beneficial. Or they would call Benny or something like that. Yeah, dude, I was stoked. You know what, though? I think now the story has come out like I'd done it a couple days before.
Yeah, you had to reshoot it. Yeah, refilm it.
I had to reshoot it. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I think when I was doing that trick, I didn't probably anticipate to grind like super long. I thought just get on, grind, get off kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But the way that angle kind of pushes you into it, it like really like, that's probably why it was scary, because it just locks you in, like if you do it right, it just pushes you into the ledge. Mm-hmm. And I think that first day, I think I did it probably just as long. Like I think I did it pretty well. So that the time that I filmed it, and I was stoked. I don't think it tended to be like that good. I was like, I don't know, like looking at what everyone else was doing for their Lakai like sequences, photo sequence. I was like, it's got to be something good. I think that would work because I tried it a few other spots. I had no idea what to go shoot to try to keep up with Rick and Mike's ads. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe that'll work. was not confident that it was going to be that good. But it turned out really good. I mean, again, like it locks you in. You kind of have to go fast at that to like even make it into like position. So it's just like a forced situation. But yeah, to get that call and be like, dude, you got to go back and do it again. You're like, fuck, no. Like, I mean, the pressure, because normally if you get something done, like I would not think like, yeah, I'm just going to keep trying it, keep doing it. So it's like, oh no. But luckily, you know, I think because that there was no filmer the first time. Yeah, I didn't have a filmer. It was just me and Ballard and no one else there. So yeah, I think, it felt good. I think that's what felt really good. I think to go back and have to do it and handle the pressure to be like, you know, not crumble and be like, dude, I can do it. I've done it. Now I got to go back. So I think that was probably the coolest feeling, to kind of handle that pressure.
Did you know it was going to be used in Modus, or did you not know at first and you were like, oh, this will be used maybe in a good old chocolate project or something like
You know, at that point, yeah, that's what's funny, dude. I don't think I intended it to be. I was like, I just need a sequence. And I just like compartmentalized, like, I got to go shoot this photo. And it wasn't this importance of like, but it's going to be good. And I'm filming. I was filming for Modus with Mike and Rick and them, but it was Mike's video part. And I was just, maybe Ty was filming everything at that point, and maybe there was no like, you're going to be on Mike's part, you know. It wasn't that like, there was no maybe big discussion, so you need all this stuff. I was just, again, out skating with them, you know, a lot, and that was the crew. So I guess it made sense to, you know, if it was going to go somewhere, that would be the play. Yeah, I guess there was no agreement like, you're going to be in his part. I don't remember that. So I probably just knew I was probably going to be in the video. I probably not even know that I was going to be in his part until like the premiere or something. I don't know. Like it was, back then it was pretty good about you just...
It'll land wherever it needs to land, or... Yeah.
So I didn't realize the importance, you know, of like getting that footage on film. And, but yeah, it was a really good clip. So
for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Glad it, and yeah, Ty filmed that like incredibly well. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. Like there was the photographer on the ground. Somehow the way he filmed it, he was able to kind of eliminate that. So he timed it all so well to kind of distract from that. Yeah, it was really cool.
Okay, I have one last question. This one is from Greg Hunt. So he said, currently, how old do you feel when you're pulling your board out of the trunk? And how old do you feel after the first kickflip of the day? Thank you for your friendship over the years, especially for giving me somewhere to stay when moving twice. I'll always be grateful for that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Greg's the best. He's one of the first people that I met when I got to SF. I probably mentioned Shamil, but Greg was like, I've really connected with him from the start, and he had tons of friends, but he could tell like, oh, this new guy probably could use some support. So he actually let me thank him back, because he really looked after me as well.
He had also just arrived in SF not long before, right? Maybe a year before you or something?
I guess so, but those years like mattered. You know, he seemed, you know, like really...
Like he knew
embedded
everything.
Yeah. He knew everything. He knew everybody. Another person that like probably went to that city and landed with a great level of respect. He did it right, you know. So yeah, that was really cool to have that time with him. And I mean, back to that first part of the question. I don't know, how old do I feel? I don't know, maybe not my age, but definitely up there for sure. God, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It feels great when I get to skate. I'm like, why don't I do this more? This feels so good. But then I do like one little like weird movement. Like I don't even I have a really bad ankle. So if I just shift it like wrong, I'm like, oh God, there it is. And I just like crumble. But I think maybe there's a level of conditioning too, that if you're not skating all the time, you can't even handle the pain. But yeah, and then first kickflip, sometimes if I skate, I don't necessarily, I feel like doing flip tricks and stuff, that's almost gives me anxiety, because I think that's like the first thing to go and the last thing to come back. So every once in a while, I'm like, let me see if I can do a kickflip. And kickflips are okay. I think that's the only thing that I know for sure I can do. All the other flip tricks like might take a second.
Are there like specific tricks that you can't really do anymore, or like if you try to do them, you might get hurt or stuff like that? Are there certain, I don't know, like doing certain tech tricks or flip tricks, as you said, or I don't know, skating transition or whatever? Like, is there a type of skating that you're like, oh, I'm going to try to avoid this as much as possible because I know I might get hurt if I try to skate that way? Or
Yeah. I mean, my ankle, because it really bothers me. So I almost think a whole backside everything, backside everything is like almost like scares me. So like back Smith, back tail, back lip, anything like.
Is it your left or right ankle?
It's my back. So it's my left ankle. So I think if it goes back too far, so I think that's why if I go front side, I can kind of keep it out in front of me and kind of keep it almost like guarded in a sense, because backside Smith or something, you got to like really kind of flex your foot back a lot, and that little bit, it just kept me from going that way. And now like I just imagine like falling backwards and like putting my back to things, and it's a total bummer because I'm like, God, I would love to just like do a back Smith or a back, but something now is just like has stopped me from going that direction.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. But frontside, you don't have the same issue.
At least I can like guard it in a sense. Like I can kind of see my feet and I can kind of protect them. They don't have to go like the way my ankles go. They don't have to bend back as much to do like frontside Smith or frontside tail or no slides. So painfully that you're going to see if I do anything, it's going to be like a no slide or tail slide or Smith grind or 5-0, and then that's pretty much it.
So, yeah, I just wanted to ask you a bit about shoe design. As we mentioned throughout our conversation, you transitioned into shoe design slowly throughout the years. I guess the first step of that was getting on Lakai, like witnessing like the birth of the brand with Rick and Mike. At what point did you decide that that was going to be like the next step in your career? Was there like a moment or an event that happened where you felt like, okay, like once I retire from pro skating, this is what I want to do? How did this transition happen kind of?
Yeah, I mean, there was so many like touch points like through Lakai. You know, I think there was like Sung in crew that was there early on, and I got to a little bit of interaction with them, you know, but I was still probably more skating. So I was interested, but I didn't find myself trying to lean into it as much. But when Aaron Hoover was there, that was at a point where still skating, but I was trying to draw stuff, and I was trying to think. For me, I was trying to think like, oh, what if we made something like this? Like, what if we made a boat shoe and such? So I would draw something, and I think I would show him the CAD, and he would be like, oh, cool. Well, why don't we try to make it? You know, and I was like, oh shit, okay, you know, kind of fumble, like it just thought like here's a side drawing of a shoe, like you kind of deal with it. He's like, no, let's make it. And then he nurtured that, like the fails in the sense, like here, just try, like you'd get the thing back and you're like, oh, this kind of sucks, you know, and then be like, well, what are we going to do to fix it, you know, kind of solve it. So he really gave me that opportunity. And I think just those little, like, I'd say failures, you know, got me interested, you know, to be like, oh, okay. Because then you have to go a second time or a third time. It just doesn't happen. You know, you have to keep trying, like skating or whatever. And
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Could be a good idea. And it looks like shit the first time, but doesn't mean like it's not going to become something. So I've realized, like, I don't know, like that the back and forth, the attempts at that moment, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I want to do this, you know, like I could see that it was possible. You know, not that the design came, like it worked itself out, but I saw it's intimidating, but it's not like it's possible, you know. So he showed me that it could be something possible. So that gave me the bravery to kind of go after it. But I was also naive in a sense. I was like, yeah, I want to do that, you know. And they gave me that opportunity. They're like, yeah, you know, like, let's go. And for him too, you know, like now knowing what it's like to hire people in design, you can't just be like, yeah, add another person. I'll add another person. Like companies have headcount and they have a budget or they have, you know, so for him to be like, and Kelly Bird probably also was like, dude, I think Scott could do it. You know, if we bring him in, I think he could do it. And I know Mike and Rick were also in that conversation, but to give me that opportunity to say, yeah, like let him take one of the seats into the design room. He'll figure it out. And Aaron Hoover was like, I'll help him like figure it out. Now, I mean, is priceless, you know. I think back to that, like I don't know if what I owe to it or what's the right word, but it was quite a freaking incredible opportunity. They set me up to, I think a lot of people have a hard time transitioning out of skateboarding because they don't know what they want to do and how do you take any of the learnings into to find your niche, you know, in the world. And they saw it in me, I guess, which is good. But I also was like, I see something, I raised my hand, I was like, I want to do this. Maybe it was a reasonable thing versus like, I just want to own a company, you know, give me a company, you know, like that's probably what everyone wants to do. And that's probably still, you know, this day I'm always like, maybe I wish I did my own thing or I had something to say that's mine. Maybe still to this day, maybe there would be something that I could put it all together and to do the right thing. But yeah, what a
journey,
what an honor. What an opportunity. But you know, you got to seize them. You know, if you don't take the opportunity and make the most of it,
exactly.
So squander it. But yeah, Aaron Hoover gave me that chance, and I think I remember just it was such a learning curve that you just 6 months. Like I remember like that day of like going into the office 9 to 5. But I was so stoked to do it. I don't know. I mean, I think that feeling of having purpose every single day, like I have to get work done, you know, as a skater, especially when you get older, you start to feel like, dude, I'm not getting shit done today. Like I hung out all day, generated nothing, no footage, I didn't learn anything. I just kind of hung out at spots all day and then went home and just...
Yeah, you don't have much purpose, I guess.
Yeah, you're just spending money. You're not really like making money. You're not making like progress.
Yeah.
So that felt really good. I think not till like 6 months later after like the job, I was like, wait, I'm always at the office now. Like I never, you know, like I just like, damn, I had it good. You look back and you're like, fuck. And time, it's all about time. I'm always talking about time these days to my kids. Like, do you know what you could do with your time? You know, yeah, I wish I used my time back then better. You know, you can do so much in a day.
Do you remember, like, at what point did you retire from pro skating? Like, was there, like, a specific moment where you decided, okay, like, I'm not going to be a pro skater anymore, not have a board out, not have a pro shoe for Lakai and stuff like that, and just do shoe design? Because I guess, like, this whole transition happened throughout, I don't know how many years, but, like, a bit of time. Was there a specific moment when you decided, okay, I'm just going to quit pro skating and focus on shoe design from now on?
Yeah, I think I had a call with Mike, and I think he was probably like prodding me, like, what's your intention here? Like, kind of thing. I can't really remember, but I was like, I remember saying like pretty clearly, like, if I had to choose, I'd think I'd want to be a designer now, kind of thing, you know, like, and it was like a transitional kind of thing. I think I started to design in like 2007. Like I went into the office, but still had boards out, still had a shoe out, I think. So it was like a really soft overlap in a sense. It didn't like just drastically cut off and disappear. But my responsibilities stopped entirely immediately. Like I think the minute I was in the office designing, I don't think I was like, I need to go shoot a photo this weekend or I need to get some footage. I probably still skated a fair bit. Actually, no, because you know what I would skate like at the skate park at lunch, or I found ways to build skating into my like lunch work day because I had a baby and started a job all within like a few months time. So my life changed entirely, drastic, like newborn baby,
full-time job
and a full-time job. So it all like, it just screeching halt. But I think I would skate pretty much like on my lunch breaks at Girard, or even at Podium. There was like a mini ramp or they built a skate park. So I would, or go skate at night, go to the barracks or something for a bit. So yeah, that's kind of how it just kind of progressed, layered out, I guess. Yeah.
So you were working at Lakai until I think 2015, and eventually you left to go work at Adidas. you were the senior designer at Lakai, so there was no like more progression, so to speak, for you over there. And you wanted to make room also for people below you to kind of take your seat. And so how did this transition to Adidas happen? Did you approach them? I think you talked about this in the Village Psychic interview, but how did you first connect with Adidas, and how did you feel about going to work for like such a major brand? Because like Lakai is a skater-owned shoe brand, much smaller in size and in volume of production and everything than a huge monster like Adidas. So what were your thoughts about like going for an interview for a brand like Adidas? It must have been a trip at the time to just kind of think about going there. I guess it must have been quite a big change.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess to kind of go back on that question, I think my time at Lakai, I started to realize, there's not much growth. I think there was like a hard moment within like the skate industry or, and business and stuff. And I could see that. So I didn't see how things were going to get bigger. I just felt like things were going to get smaller and maybe harder, not necessarily for me, for the companies. And again, I have a couple children at that point, and I'm just figuring out how to grow my career to take care of my children as well. But honestly, it was also that point where, while it was like I'm incredibly touched that my friends built this opportunity for me, I also felt this weight that I can't rely on my friends to kind of pay me forever. Like, there's like a pressure on your friendship, or your pressure on is this on merit, or is this on we're just all. So there was kind of like that component there. And also like, am I good enough to leave that comfort zone? Can I stand on my own feet? Do I have it to like step out of my comfort zone? I think a lot of growth happens when you step out of your comfort zone. It wasn't my choice to do that, or that wasn't like I need to, step out of my comfort zone, but I know that's what you like have to do. And that's what I was doing innately. I was like, let me see. And I heard about it. And then I think I had a friend that knew someone over there. I was like, hey, can you just sniff that out for me? Cause I didn't want to just, I don't know, like cold call people, or I was like, I'm curious about like what they see over there.
Yep.
And my buddy was like, dude, they're pretty, like, I think your name came up with that job opening, because they were like, that would be awesome. But they didn't reach out to me because I think they
didn't think you would be interested, maybe, or?
Yeah, they're like, oh no, he's like 100% like, with Lakai, that's his crew and all this stuff. And that would be like really cool, but I don't think he would ever do it, kind of thing. So the fact that I poked in there, like it kind of opened up. They're like, I talked to, one of the people there that we knew. He was probably the person doing the hiring anyways, or he was at least in the panel, to another designer. So talked to him a fair bit, and I had to go through the proper, channels, like I don't know if I even sent maybe my resume. I didn't send a portfolio. I kind of got organized to present when I got there, but normally I think you would have to send your work ahead, but I think they just kind of knew of my work through
for sure.
Looking at like the brands, and I think they liked, maybe they didn't know my process, but they liked the output and they liked my history in skateboarding, and they saw something there. So I went in for a panel, and that was interesting because there was 3 people in the panel. One person didn't know anything about skateboarding, so that was kind of cool. But you know what? I think I did well with that, because I wasn't like, I have to get this job, like, and I was like all nervous. I felt comfortable to be like, I don't know, I'm just going to go up there and see what's what, and just kind of check it out. But, and I guess not having like this, like, I don't know, this desperate, like, I need this job, so it made me feel really comfortable to just talk and to not try to oversell myself. And I guess that whole process went really well. And then meeting with like the GM too, it was just kind of, there was an ease about it that I don't know, come in too hard and try to, like I said, oversell.
Yeah.
So it was wild to be like, wow, I'm going to move to this bigger brand. And there was a ease about like not overthinking it. I was like, oh yeah, Adidas, I see it's an awesome company. It sits in this sweet spot between like a Nike and a Vans. Like, it has the performance kind of aspect of like a Nike, but it has a lot more silhouettes and a lot more like history than like a Vans, you know? So to think of all the panels and lines that you can creatively play with. Yeah, I think I just saw like an incredible creative opportunity. Yeah.
When you applied for that job, was that job specifically for the skateboarding program, or did you ever consider doing other kind of footwear design, or did you want to stay within skating?
Yeah, I think at that point I wanted to stay in skating. I understood like the history of skating and the skate footwear. So I could kind of see like more than just design, but maybe the strategy on like what the marketplace looked like and what could freshen it up. And again, it's stuff that I cared about, like how skateboarding looks and how skate shoes perform. So it would like, to me, it was the logical kind of space to stay within that industry because it is like kind of a home to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the job description did say skateboarding footwear designer or something. It probably led me to believe that. But I also was like, and then who knows, maybe I'll be able to learn other bits of design or see other avenues within this bigger company. I'm like, but if I want to grow beyond skateboarding, it's all here. It's all within this big company.
And I was just wondering, like, how did it feel when you arrived there compared to Lakai? Because, like, Lakai was a much smaller team, and you knew, like, the skaters that you were designing the shoes for, like the pro models for the people who got some and stuff. How did it feel arriving there and adjusting to that kind of environment? I don't know, like, for example, designing Tyshawn's shoe. Was it a much different process to do that rather than doing a pro model shoe for someone at Lakai, for example? Or was it somewhat similar?
Big question. There's a lot there. But yeah, I remember first going there and just there's a lot of quiet time to just pick up like what the process is. Again, there's a lot of learning, there's so many more steps in the process than the way it was at the skate brand. You have developers, there's product marketing, there's all these things. There's like a sales component that probably came in, but in an internal way, it's drastically different. So I think I was learning like, oh, okay, there's this new person that I didn't get to talk to, a developer, or the marketing person that you have to like really get, like you have to connect with and to build a rapport, to like trust each other and to understand like what do they need and to challenge what they're saying and creatively what it could be and show options and learning this new way of working, like collaborating was huge, that was the biggest unlock for me creatively, because you start to learn like it doesn't only have to be me to make this shoe. It isn't only me. It's this team of people that are going to make this thing, and to rely on their expertise to make you better, to make the product better, and to push each other and to find new solutions and new intentions for like maybe that wasn't ever the plan. That was the raddest thing about it. I started to learn like, because back in the day, you draw something, be like, that's a shoe, that looks cool, and it would just be kind of done. But I think that rub, that back and forth of like the design reviews and people poking holes in it, or be like, oh, what about this? And development being like, oh, I don't understand, but if you do this, we could build the shoe differently and we could do this. And all these unlocks started all happening so quickly. And I think I had a pretty good understanding of like marketing and like the space, but like working with people that really know that and that's their expertise. It was a really fun, creative just solution process to like the creative process in like solving a business need, construction need. So again, learned a lot there.
Yeah.
And learned the biggest thing was the coolest thing was to be a skater, the skater guy that like didn't have the same credentials of the people like in the room, feeling like, God damn, like all these people are like have, they're smarter than me, or, like in a like this, I don't know, lack of confidence, maybe maybe it's not the right word, but just like, damn, but sitting back and seeing all this stuff, but then realizing biggest realization is to be the most authentic version of yourself in these rooms, in these conference rooms, and speak to things from like your point of view. Like this is me, and this is like, you don't have to say me, but be comfortable in your own skin, you know, and know you're not, but be brave enough to be like, this is me and this is like what I'm putting forth, and go within that like kind of comfort zone. You start to realize like, yeah, not everyone has to be the same. And I think that's like the beauty of, again, it's a big corporate thing, but if you tap into all these personalities and like all these, what makes these people great, that collective is what makes things great. So when everyone tries to fit into a mold, you kind of lose it. And I've realized like, I don't need to mold myself to be this person. I can be me. And that was really cool. That was the biggest thing for me there.
Do you have like kind of a favorite project that you've worked on at Adidas? You were there for 8 years, I believe, and you did a bunch of different projects, but like the ones that I've noticed probably the most were the Tyshawn shoe. We talked about Tyshawn, the Lucas Puig, you probably a couple different ones, and you did the 3ST series, right? There was at least 3 of them, I think. Do you have like kind of a favorite project that you've worked on during your time over there at Adidas?
Yeah, I mean, all of those are definitely up there. You know, I think my favorite shoe that I did was the City Cup, though. I had that out the other day. I was looking at it and I was like, damn, man, this shoe is pretty dope. They should put it back in the line. You know, like it had just such a great shape and there was not a lot of panels, but it really kind of stood out to be something not entirely new, but just had this really cool interaction. And then obviously the Lucas project was really cool. And I remember Gareth from Palace bringing up the City Cup, and he was like, dude, that shoe was good. When they talk about modern terrace, like that's it. And that to me was like such a compliment coming from him, because that's his world. And I was like, fucking sick. Like, and still like I look at him like, it's a pretty good shoe. Like they should be doing something with it. And again, big machine, too many shoes. Like they don't need it. But I was pretty stoked on that. The process working on Lucas shoe was really cool, and to work with Gareth and Lev, it was really cool because I didn't meet them. They're, you know, big personalities, exceptionally talented and successful with what they do, and to be able to take that and to kind of build something around Lucas, but with their brand, was quite a I don't know, like
stimulating project.
Good word. It was very stimulating because they came to Portland. I think we only had, it was like 3 days where we're like, yeah, let's talk about it, and just sitting there and like feeling this like, not gonna let these dudes down, like we're gonna make something dope, and just kind of riffing back and forth. But it was like this, I don't know, like this fun conversation where it just popped. We were like, that's the idea. And we didn't have a sketch, or we had like some rough sketches within those 3 days, but we knew what we were going to do, you know, from that point. And we would meet up in Paris during Fashion Week and meet in like a hotel and just kind of look at like the progression and be like, oh, dope. And it'd be like Lucas, Lev, Gareth, and, you know, the team around it. And it just kept, the journey was like next London, then it was LA or whatever. And it was a really easy in a sense of like something that probably had a lot of pressure to meet Lucas's needs, but their brand's needs, the Palace needs, and all this stuff. But it just came out so well. It was cool that they also kind of put me in the intro spot on like when Lucas's shoe, like when they launched it, and they kind of put that clip of me in there, and kind of just the verbiage. I was like, damn, man, that's super cool to be like called out. So
acknowledged.
Super special to me. Yeah. But hands down, working with Tyshawn and building a shoe for him, I think I had like a bit of a voice in saying like, yeah, dude, let's go for it. Let's give him a shoe. I think I even got to be in that conversation with Yasha, and Andrew Spriegel, I think, was also like, you know, the product marketing manager at the time, and or at least overseeing like if we were to do a pro shoe, who would it be with and the why, and presenting like this why even before there was a brief, and showing like everything he brings to the table. And I think it was really cool to think about the timing, because I think we were so well timed, because we were thinking about it ahead of time. Like we could see there's something coming, and I think it was just, again, timed so well. And then just he was younger at the time, so to create with him, he probably didn't know what he necessarily wanted till he saw it. So he was super trusting towards me and the team. But yeah, I think we went to Brooklyn he came to, I think we presented to him in Portland. We're like, hey, we're thinking about doing something like this. And just to see, such a cool young man, I guess you'd say, just like try to keep it cool, but he's just so stoked. You can see him smiling like, fuck, we're gonna do this, no way. And then to go to New York and do it the place where he would feel most comfortable, like make it easier for him to just come in and out of his day and to see what we're sketching. And then again, like that aha moment, like, yeah, that's it. And just having like friends and like people like in and out of the Brooklyn space to help build that confidence in like what we're gonna do. That was dope. And again, took him to the factory, had him test it there versus like just really, have him a part of the process.
Yeah.
There was another shoe. There was like one of those, like 3ST, the 4. It was like had Boost in it. But I was like, I don't know, I wanted to get him involved in like product creation. Like, cause Yasha was like, I don't know, I'd like to do something with him. I was like, all right, yeah, let's see like his interaction with product, so brought him in on that and like tested it and discussed it. And it was like kind of like a practice for him. And in the background, we were kind of already been like, let's see, if this is something that he would be, I don't know, good at or interested in, or just kind of, I think the biggest thing with anyone is to be a part of the process and be in the journey of like, then you can get more on board. And like, that was the pilot to his shoe would be the 3ST04. Yeah. And then to his shoe. And yeah, I mean, we saw, he had a shoe, I think he had the top 10 or the pro model, like a basketball kind of height silhouette. And we just, again, the strategy within like the space of like what our range looked like and the shoes that we had, and like Boostnitz was soccer, and, what could be the thing to lean towards for like inspiration or direction within the brand, or, and the basketball kind of vibe followed suit with like, he did like top 10s, he was wearing those, and the pro model shoe, the mid top, we were like, man, maybe that's the silhouette, and he just didn't question. He's like, yeah, that sounds dope, let's do it, and I think just all that, a bit of foresight and a bit of planning, and hearing people were like in sales were like, I don't get it, like, why are you guys making a basket like a mid top, high top kind of look, like that doesn't sell, like nobody is wanting that, and I think sales is important, but sometimes it gets in the way because you don't create anything new because you're going off of
what's been working in the past.
And keep doing more of that and versions of that, and there's no like breaking the mold. And I still to this day, I mean, there's not a lot of mids out there that really stand out. I know we did like a low top and stuff, but that silhouette and like just how it was all pushed, but not too much, created something new to really, it's standing a long test of time already, so it's pretty cool to see.
To wrap it up, I just want to ask you about what you're doing right now. We talked about it briefly the other day. I don't know how much you can talk about this, but like I was just wondering if you could tell us, the people who are listening to this, what you're up to these days. Like we mentioned that you just moved back to LA and that you're embarking on a new project. So yeah, what can you tell us about what you have cooking, basically?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I always, well, right now we're in this incubation, like starting phase, and sign like an NDA of like, can't really talk. It's always going to be like an under NDA because we'll probably be working with like multiple people and brands and like creatives and stuff. It's almost in this world of like this collaboration space. People don't say they're going to work with this thing until it's out kind of thing, but we're going to be the ghost beyond that, I would say. And here I am. I'm like trying to dance around what we're gonna do, and it always is in this fumbling sense of like, can't really say quite yet. I don't even know if I'll ever be able to say, but there's like this incredible opportunity to approach footwear in the footwear world in like such a, I don't want to say disruptive way, but fuck it, disruptive way of like just changing how a brand comes to life or a company comes to life. We've seen these bigger brands sit in the spots for so long, and I think the hypothesis of what they want to do is just way too interesting. And the people behind it have such an incredible professional journey, and coming to them and learning like what they've done and what they want to do, and then also looking at me and the person that I am and my history, and just really just again wanting to tap into that. Just felt like, fuck, this is like a once in a lifetime dream scenario. And it's also like super scary because there's nothing to say like, oh, this is what the company is and I'm just going to add to that. Like, I'm a part of like building it and being a part of that, and it's a massive creative challenge, but it's also like such an opportunity that I have to go for it. And it is quite nice that it is in LA. So getting, moving back to, I mean, we have tons of friends up in Portland, but just getting back to what feels like kind of home, and just being in the sun and being really comfortable to kind of go into this next chapter. But it's going to be sick. I mean, there's a lot of things that will come out. Some things will be like, oh, I don't know where that came from. And other things will be like, oh, I know who made this. Or it's going to be a really fun process. But our capabilities in manufacturing and design and process, like we have like a super team of design. The capabilities we have are like top tier. And I think what's the funnest thing for me is like to take, I worked at a smaller company and that was super rad, but maybe there was like resources we were missing. So we were kind of stuck to that. And then this bigger brand where like they have all the resources, but maybe it's such a big machine that like, even when there's like, oh, this is what we got to do and change differently, the thing has been running. It's just ship's been kind of set course and you just can't turn it. And like this kind of speedboat kind of space where it's going to have all the power of that big tanker, but be so quick and nimble, but have all the resources that big ship has is like where this new thing will sit. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome.
So I wish I could say more, and I don't know, I'm curious when I will be able to say more, but yeah, we're working with some really awesome people, and I think people are gonna be really surprised and shocked at some of this new stuff that will come into the footwear world.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So do you think it will happen sometime in 2024, I guess? Like before the summer or?
I don't know. I think there's actually a few things that might come out before the end of 23.
Oh, okay.
There's a few things that will kind of bubble. I don't know. It's curious. Like maybe it'll be a small way. Maybe it'll be like a holy fuck kind of way. I don't know. Because, we'll see how people respond to these things.
Sure.
But yeah. Over the course of the next year or so, things are going to start to show up.
Well, yeah, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and good luck with everything, and all the best.
That's it for my conversation with Scott. Follow him on Instagram at ScooChyJ, SCOOCHYJ, to keep an eye on his upcoming projects. Go watch and rewatch some of his iconic video parts in the FTC videos, Think Skateboards, 5 Flavors, and Let the Horns Blow, Girl in Chocolates, Chocolate Tour, Yeah Right, Hot Chocolate, Fully Flared, and more. I also highly recommend you check out his Village Psychic interview from January 2023 about shoe design, as well as his mission statement episode and Bobshirt interviews. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon for a new episode of Beyond Boards.